when that suicide bomber that was locked up in Bagram, that never should have got out, that we never should have shut down, killed 13 of the finest Americans we know. You know what this bill does? Nothing for them. It gives more money to an illegal person who crossed this border. I'm sorry. Americans expect more. Our priorities should be different. These people risk their life every day for us. Just let that sink in to your children's children. One-party rule for 1 year has brought us inflation we haven't seen in 31 years. Gas prices the highest it's been since the last time President Biden was down at the White House. A Thanksgiving that's going to cost you more at any time in your life. A border where 1.7 million encounters. A border between February and October that more people have crossed than 2018, 2019, and 2020 combined. And Mr. Speaker, the closest the president has ever been to the border in 42 years is to drive through El Paso. Mr. Speaker, a vice president who is the czar of the border. This isn't a Republican or Democrat issue. This is the safety of this nation. What do you think's going to happen to that border when you provide $1 billion in amnesty? What do you think's going to happen when you reward people with $450,000? Where do you get the money? From the hardworking taxpayers of America who have less to give. But you know what? They're going to have to give more because you're hiring 87,000 IRS agents to come after them. 1.2 million more audits. And half of all those 1.2 are going after Americans who make $75,000 or less. That's what you base this entire bill on. That's what you waited for the CBO to tell you. How much money can we get from them? How is that possible? The payments for illegal immigrants is just the latest data point in a much larger trend of failures on this border. Cheered on by left-wing activists, President Biden and Vice President Harris have presided over the greatest series of border security blunders in American history. Mr. Speaker, if 160 different countries have had people come across that border illegally, if we have caught people on the terrorist watch list, if a suicide bomber got out of Bagram and in 1 week killed 13 American soldiers, do you think they know how to get into America? Do you think they know where to go? Maybe they have to go at night. They got a better chance now because they've got night goggles that we had. They got Black Hawk helicopters. They have more Black Hawk helicopters, the Taliban, than 2/3 of our NATO countries. They have more than Australia. In that phone call with the president, you know what he told me? Oh, Kevin, we're going to have a lot of leverage with the Taliban because they're going to need help running their country. Why don't you tell that to the hundreds of Americans that are still there trying to get out? And every time there's a member on this side of the aisle that goes upon themselves because they care about their constituents and they try to get that American out, the State Department attacks them. You try to criticize them, they risk their own life. And Mr. Speaker, even in our own hearings, I respect greatly anyone who served in uniform, and you have some tremendous members on the other side of the aisle have. And I watched them question the Secretary of State and still not get an answer. Mr. Speaker, to that member on your side of the aisle that sits on Intel, that said I wasn't telling the truth, that we were catching people on the terrorist watch list, that has done nothing about it since. I wonder if he should serve on Intel next term, because America needs to be protected. For anyone who thinks they're not a border city, just look up how many deaths you have in fentanyl. And let me tell you where fentanyl comes from. It comes across that border, but it comes from China. Mr. Speaker, let me tell you another story. I have a friend who serves in the Senate. Right before COVID, he was on a Codell with other senators. And he was sitting and having a communication, maybe you've experienced this as well, with a military general in the Chinese Communist Army. You know what that general said to him? America, you're weak. You're weak, America. You're weak because you believe in God and you take fentanyl. Fentanyl has increased 300%. Only because the border is not secure. There is no city in America that is safe. This is deadly. They've handed the border over to the cartels, unleashing these monsters onto our people. And they compromised our national security. Answer me this question, Mr. Speaker. If somebody's on the terrorist watch list, and Mr. Speaker, they entered our state of California. They haven't entered one. They weren't together. They came on different days. And you know right now, if you're a member of Congress and you ask them how many more you got, they don't want to tell you. Just as they don't want to give us the number of how many Americans are still stuck there. They're hoping if we don't pay attention anymore, we'll forget. I promise you this, we will not forget. And we will not stop. Here is what the National Border Patrol Council President Brandon Judd told us, and I quote, "This administration says it's just Central American countries. But in just 1 week in Yuma, Arizona sector, we've seen people illegally enter from countries like Egypt, Russia, Armenia, Georgia, Haiti, Portugal, and Uzbekistan. There's no better time for them to come into our country than now." I didn't think Egypt or Russia was in Central America. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to offer this invitation. We got Thanksgiving coming. We're both from California. Why don't we invite the Vice President to come down to the border with you and I both, and let's take a tour. And while we're there, let's go to the Port of LA and Long Beach and talk about the supply chain. Let them see that these ships that are waiting and coming in, when they unload, they go back empty to pick up more from China. They don't load American products. Now, it may take a little while to get from the border of San Diego up to Long Beach, so we may have to stop to get gas. I'll split it.